If you're a resin artist and you don't have any mica powders yet, you might want to go shopping. These mica powders will add details and interest to your artwork that you can't get with other products. If you remember, I started this panel using my resin and the Rust-Oleum Mirror Effect spray paint. Today we're going to add another layer and look at those details. I have batched about 8 ounces of the Epoxy Resin Store's general use clear epoxy, and I let it sit for about 20 minutes in the cup to let it thicken a little bit because I wanted this resin to be on the thicker side. I've mixed in some Pearl-Ex. This is their Duo Blue Green, and it is just a wonderful mica color. I always add a couple of drops of 99% alcohol into my mica powders, and what that does is it creates a little bit of a lightness into the resin, and it lets those mica powders float loose. I'm also using Art Tree Creations. This is their Opal, and that is also a mica powder, and it has this unusual ability of a shifting color, and it'll go from greens to purples to blues. So I thought it'd be a really fun one to add in here. I'm using my heat gun and I'm using my torch, and by pouring these into puddles and then hitting them with the torch and then coming in with the heat gun, I can blow them and manipulate them and get these really great effects. These cells just burst. It's almost like fireworks going off on the canvas. I wanted to add a little bit of detail, so I'm using a toothpick here, and I'm just dragging that through the puddles that are there, and that also can create a little bit of a different interest on this. Now my canvas is very, very level. I wanted to make sure, because if you have everything going off to one side, that's a big problem spot. I'm using a toothpick and I'm putting it into this blue, and then I'm letting it just run down off of the toothpick and creating these little dots across the canvas. Again, looking to add some details and some interest. And then we're just going to let that sit and cure overnight. So here's a look at the details that I got out of it. I'm outside in the bright light, and you can see that that background from the Rust-Oleum Mirror Effect spray paint just shines real bright. And you can notice those purples and how they shift their color when you turn. But I'm not done. Now I'm over on my big resin table, and again I've got another 8 ounces of the Epoxy Resin Store's resin, and I'm putting this down, and again I'm letting it sit for 20 minutes. I've used their Flow Art resin pigment, and I've mixed that in to make this little cup full a really jet black, midnight black color. I used a lot of pigment in there. And again, it's really important at this stage that the canvas is level. If your canvas is not level, you're going to see these dots start to stretch and drift. So it's really important. There's been some times in my past when my interest that I put down and really liked, I come back the next morning and it's all sitting on my table. So using my level, it really helps to make sure that when I'm doing a project like this, it's going to stay put. Now the other thing that's important is the part that I let the resin sit for 20 minutes. That really helps a lot for it to start to stabilize. If I had been adding these color dots in while it was still too fresh, they would just start to dissipate and spread out. But by waiting 20 minutes, allowing the resin to get thicker sitting in its cup, that lets these stay and hold their position a little bit more. I did get a little bit of float Usually towards the edges of your canvas, you're going to get some floating happening, but this one worked out really good and I'm pleased with my results. So just like I did using the toothpick, what I do is I load up my popsicle stick with some of the black resin and get it over the spot wherever I pick that I'm going to put it. And once I hold it completely over the board, I just let that resin run down. Now it's time to cover it up and let it cure overnight, and we'll head outside. Here it is, weathering the storm. I was down in my studio in the basement and it was snowing like a son of a gun outdoors, but I was cozy and warm inside playing with my resin and getting these gorgeous effects with my mica powders. Again, I used the Pearlex, that is going to be their Duo Blue-Green, and I also use Art Tree Creations, their powder Opal, and it gave these fantastic results. I love the effects that I've got, and look at how that Opal has those shifting colors of the purples and the blue-greens. It is just so much fun to play around. Look at that. I love it. If you're interested in finding out more, please take a look at some of the other videos I have for you, and you might want to go back and take a look at how I did that background. We'll see you next time.